Hello there, this is TP8017 and today I'm going to be having a look at some of the Mac games that came out last month, March 2024. So there was a few interesting ones that came out actually, including Stolen Realm, a very pretty little cRPG, Dune Imperium, the digital board game, 4D Golf, which kind of has to be seen to be believed, and Snufkin, Melody of Moominvalley, which is an officially licensed game based on the Moomins franchise, which is Swedish, I believe. So, with that being said, let's get into it. So first up, the one that had the most interest. Stolen Realm by Burst to Flame Entertainment. It came out after 3 years in early access. It's a turn-based tactical action RPG set in a very pretty little hex-based, so 6 sides, low polygon world. You can play either solo or up to 6 players, and it has over 300 skills and 200 different monsters. So it's actually quite a pretty little looking thing. Looking at the screenshots, you got a couple of scorpions there, and you got wizard. So let's have a look at the trailer. Yes, a very pretty little one, that one. My apologies about the line down the side there. I thought I had that video set up properly. Anyway, so it's available on Windows and Mac, the Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S, and the Nintendo Switch. And it normally sells for $19.99 US. System requirements, Windows XP or later, dual-core 2.8 GHz Intel or AMD processor, 2 GB of RAM, Intel HD graphics 3000, which is a fairly old by this point, I'd say about 2014-15, and 2 GB of free space. On the Mac side, pretty much the same, Mac OS 10.8 Mountain Lion, which is very old at this point. I think it's 2011-ish off the top of my head. 2 GHz processor, RAM and GPU not mentioned, and 2 GB of free space. So it's basically, if you've got a system newer than 2014, you'll be able to run it. But yes, a very pretty little game. So let's move on. Next up, Dune Imperium by Direwolf. It launched in early access in, I think it was October actually. I actually remember covering it on one of the on one of the recaps back then. So it's a digital adaptation of the board game, set in the Dune universe. It has challenges in a skirmish mode, and yes, I don't know a great deal about the Dune franchise, but so let's have a look at the trailer. It's the same as last time, but 5 months ago. I can get away with a repeat.
Arrakis, Dune, the desert planet. Experience the award-winning strategy of Dune Imperium as never before. Take board game battles online with friends or hone your tactics against clever AI opponents. Unique challenges test your ability to adapt and survive. Control the spice. Control the universe in Dune Imperium.
Yes, then I went looking for a trailer that was the most recent one, so yeah. So it's available on Windows, Mac, and Linux. Recommended price, US $22.99. System requirements, Windows 10, 64-bit, Intel Core i5-2400, or AMD Ryzen 3 2200G. So the Intel processor would be a fairly old one at this point, would be, I would say about 2014ish again actually. 4GB of RAM, Intel HD graphics 3000, or AMD Vega 8, and 2GB of free space. On the Mac side, Mac OS 10.15 Catalina with a 64-bit processor, 4GB of RAM, graphics NVIDIA GeForce 8600M or ATI Radeon HD 2600 Pro, and 2GB of free space. So again, you'd be looking at a system about 2014, 2015 on your, and you shouldn't have any complaints running it. Next one is Summerhouse by Friedman. And it's a very small little game, but it's about building a little house or a little store set among a variety of different backdrops. You've got a bit of a city here in the first screenshot, and a bit of a mountain and lake on the second one. So a very pretty little thing. Let's see.
Hi, I'm Friedemann. I've been making indie games for a while now, and I've been lucky to be part of games like Islanders and Superflight with some really good friends of mine. Today, however, I want to introduce you to something a bit more personal, something really special to me, my first solo game, Summerhouse. Summerhouse is a tiny building game where you build houses in a variety of levels, like the sea, the mountains, the city, or the desert. There aren't really any rules to how you play this game. You can't win or lose it. I just remember walking around as a child on summer vacation and finding old buildings really fascinating. I wanted to make a game about that feeling, so in Summerhouse, you just build some houses, you unlock some hidden characters, and that's it. So, if this sort of minimalist creative gameplay appeals to you, check out Summerhouse. It's out now on Steam for the price of a big chai latte. Thanks, and have fun.
I think he describes it better than I did. So, Summerhouse, available on Windows and Mac, and it's for $5, or $4.99. System requirements, Windows 10 or later, Intel Core i3 2GHz or an AMD equivalent, 2GB of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 950 or higher. It's a fairly old graphics card by now, so that would be 2013, I believe. And 500 megabytes of free space. On the Mac side, Mac OS 13 Ventura, processor M1 or an Intel equivalent, 4GB of RAM, graphics again M1 or Intel equivalent, and 500 megabytes of free space. So it's honestly, you really shouldn't have much trouble running it. To be honest, it doesn't seem like a very demanding little game. Quite a pretty little one though. So, next one, Duelists of Eden by Thomas Moon Kang. So, there was a game that came out, I think it was 2021, 2022, called One Step from Eden. So and there was enough of a demand by the community for Thomas to create Duelists of Eden, which is based off it, which is kind of an expanded online multiplayer game with 14 characters to choose from, and a variety of different skills, including fire, ice, slashes, and like I said, local and online multiplayer. So let's have a look. Yeah, it's very, very fast-paced little game, that one. So that one is available for Windows, Mac and Linux for $4.99. System requirements: Windows 7 64-bit, Intel Core 2 Duo E6320 or equivalent. That's quite old at this point. That would be about 12 years or so, I reckon. So 2012-ish, I would say. 2 gigabytes of RAM. GPU will be anything made after 2012, I assume. And 1 gigabyte of free space. On the Mac side, pretty much the same. macOS 10.6, Snow Leopard. It's very old at this point. Intel Core 2 Duo E6320 or equivalent. Again, about 10-12 years old. 2 gigabytes of RAM, GPU will be any, and 1 gigabyte of free space. It's basically one of those, can you watch this video? If so, you'll be able to play it. It's actually quite fast paced compared to what I thought it would be. So next up, Slice and Dice by 10. It came out after 7 years in development. It's a tactical dice roller roguelike with quite a lot of hero classes, 128 of them, 73 different monsters, and nearly 500 different items. Battle across 20 levels, and then you get up to the final boss, and hopefully you win. So let's have a look at the trailer. Yes, so let me see. If I remember correctly, it came out originally for the Google Play Store in 2021. Then it had a Windows release, Windows Linux, I think, and it recently had the Mac and iOS releases in March. So So that one's $8.99 US. System requirements: Windows XP to Windows 10, or Ubuntu 14.04 LTS, 2 GHz processor, 2 GB of RAM, 1 GB for GPU, and the space was a little bit different between Windows and Linux, but regardless, 100 megabytes to 1 gig or 1 gigabyte. I would assume close to 100 megabytes, but I could be wrong. I'm just going by what's said on the same page. So, on the Mac side, macOS 10.14 Mojave, 2 GHz processor, 2 GB of RAM, 1 GB for GPU, and 100 megabytes of free space. So, not a very big game, and honestly not really very demanding. It's basically if you've got it's not really demanding. I'd say 2017 on Euro, to be honest. Even that's probably being a bit pessimistic. It's probably even lower. So, Maniac by Transhuman Design. I'm actually streaming this one tomorrow. So it's a bit of a different little roguelite. Very similar to the very old GTA games before Grand Theft Auto 3. It's a very pretty little thing. Create quite a bit of chaos in the city. It's quite a decent sized city as well. 11 different districts, map editor and drivable vehicles. I think there's 5 or 6 different characters, and I've been hearing talk about a level editor coming up soon as well. So it's a very pretty little game, mostly top down, but yes. So let's have a look at the trailer.
Hot dogs!
Yeah, so it recently came out. I think it was right at the end of last month, on the 28th, 29th. Available on Windows, Mac, and Linux, $4.99. And it requires System 7 or Ubuntu 16.04 or later. Processor x64 architecture with SSE2 support. You don't really have to worry about that too much. I would say most processors would be able to handle that. 1 GB RAM, GPU, DirectX 10 or OpenGL 3.2 supported, and 200 megabytes of free space. On the Mac side, macOS 10.13 High Sierra. Processor, once again, x64 architecture with SSE2 support. 1 GB RAM, metal capable GPU, and 200 megabytes of free space. Very, very fun little thing if you want to just get out and cause a bit of mayhem. So let's see. Next one, Snufkin, Melody of Moominvalley by Hyper Games. So this one's officially licensed. I don't know a great deal about the Moomin franchise, but I know it's been going on for about 70 years or so, I reckon. It's been around for a fair while. So it's a bit of a musical RPG about Snufkin, the hero, helping to restore the valley and helping the trolls, the Moomins that live there, including using a mixture of stealth and his harmonica to help destroy the parks appearing around the place. Yeah. Yeah, so very pretty little one, that one. Hand drawn, I believe. It's very nice to see in this day and age. So it's available on Windows and Mac, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and the Switch. And it's $19.99 US. Minimum system requirements are Windows 10, Intel Core i5, 3570K, or AMD equivalent. Again, that would be fairly old at this point, about 10 years old. 8GB of RAM, NVIDIA GTX 780, and the space wasn't mentioned, but I would say under 2GB, but I'm really not sure. On the Mac side, macOS 10.13, Mojave. Processor is a Intel Core i5. I would assume again a 3570K or an Apple M1. 8GB of RAM. Metal 3 compatible GPU. So I'd say it's basically a system newer than, I would say, 2015. Although you'd probably be able to run on an older system, but I'd say 2015 is a fairly safe. So next one, 4D Golf by Code Parade. This is a bit of a odd little one, to be honest. If you look at the trailer, you'll see why. But it's a mini golf game set across 4 dimensions, with over 120 different levels, plus an map editor, and 7 different themed worlds, as well as the challenge mode and local multiplayer. Now, let's have a look-see. Yeah, so it's pretty, but I don't know how to describe it. I was probably stick to 3 dimensions myself, but okay, so it's available for Windows, Mac, Linux. Recommended price US $19.99. System requirements are Windows 10 64-bit or Ubuntu 14.04. Dual core 2.4 GHz processor, which isn't too well. I think most of the Intel line should be able to offer that. Most of the recent ones, say 6-7 years, something like that. 4 gigabytes of RAM, Intel HD graphics 630. It seems a bit low, but you know, and 2 gigabytes of free space. macOS on the Mac side, macOS 10.12 Sierra, 2.2 GHz quad-core i7 or a Apple M1, 4 gigabytes of RAM, Intel HD graphics 630, and 2 gigabytes of free space. So I'd say 6-7 year old system probably be able to handle it alright, based on those requirements. Very trippy little trailer though. Next one, Pepper Grinder by Ek and MP2 Games. I hope I pronounced that right. It's an action-packed 2D platformer featuring Pepper, the main character, and her drill Grinder. Fight against pirates and a variety of different enemies like that giant bugbear, and reclaim her stolen fortune, as well as find different drill parts scattered around the place and buy upgrades. So it came out fairly recently. I think it was one of the published by Digital Devolver. I think I remember seeing a few posts on X about it. So trailer. I usually try to get the trailers with a bit of gameplay, but my apologies about that. So, it was available for Windows, Mac, Linux, and for the Switch, and it's $14.99 US. System requirements are Windows 10 64-bit or Ubuntu 22.04 LTS. Processor Intel i5 4570T or an AMD A10 5800K. 8 GB of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 650 or AMD Radeon HD 7750, both 1 GB, and 300 megabytes of free space. So, yeah, fairly, I'd say about 8 years, something like that, 8-year-old system. On the Mac side, macOS 10.15 Catalina with a 2.5 GHz quad-core Intel or Apple M1 processor, 8 GB of RAM, Intel HD graphics 5000 or an Apple M1, and 300 megabytes of free space. So again, the system requirements not too bad. Next one, Potions: A Curious Tale by Stumbling Cat. So it's a bit of a potion making adventure game. You're playing as Luna, discover and create over 100 different potions from ingredients collected from 7 different biomes, 7 different environments. explore the world, fight monsters using different potions and the environment to your advantage and, not get eaten, which is probably a good thing. So. Yes, so a very pretty little on that one. So that's Potions, A Curious Tale, available on Windows, Mac, and Linux for $19.99. Now, system requirements: Windows 10 or Arch Linux, Intel i5 2.5 GHz processor, 5 GB of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 560, and 3 GB of free space. So it'd be fairly low end at this point. The GTX 560 came out a fair while ago. On the Mac side, macOS 10.12 Sierra, Intel i5 2.5 GHz processor, 5 GB of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 560, and 3 GB of RAM. 3 GB of space. So, my apologies. I need a coffee. Yeah, so fairly pretty little on that one. Next one is King of the Bridge by Finn Schuring. This one's a bit of an odd little one. Basically, think chess, but you cheat. So you're trying to cross a bridge, you come across the troll, and he challenges you to chess, but there's a few different roles and the ability to accuse him, or vice versa, of cheating, which is basically an instant win for if you're able to successfully prove it. Yes, a bit of an odd one, that one. So, available for Windows and Mac. $2.99, the cheapest one on the list this month, I believe. Windows 7, Intel Core i3 processor, 4 GB of RAM, NVIDIA GT 710, 1 GB, and 150 megabytes of free space. On the Mac side, macOS 10.13 High Sierra, Intel Core i3, 4 GB of RAM, NVIDIA GT 710, 1 GB, and 150 megabytes of free space. So, fairly low end requirements. It's basically, once again, it's can you watch this video? If so, you're able to play it. Shotgun King, The Final Checkmate by Pancake Delicious. Sorry, my French isn't the best. So, originally came out in 2022 for Windows, but Pancake Delicious recently released their library for both Mac and Linux, and they plan to release their future titles for Mac and Linux as well. So, very popular strategy roguelites, I should say, or both, where you play as a Black King and you use your shotgun to take out the white pieces for avoiding being checkmated. Yes. Yeah, I think there's yeah, so let's have a look at the trailer.
The Black King had been quite abject, and over to the white side had gone all his subjects. Before leaving, a black bishop gave him a warning, told him his wrath would be his undoing. But the king knew his undoing had already begun. Indeed, all he had left was his royal shotgun. But the Shotgun King's reign is still holly, and in his dark folly, no need to pry, bits of white pieces will fly.
Yes, a bit different from the chess that I know. So, available platforms are quite a few. Windows, Mac and Linux, PS4 and PS5, Xbox One and Xbox X and S, and the Switch, and it's $9.99 US. Minimum system requirements are not very, to be honest. Windows 7 or any 64-bit distro for Linux, and 80 megabytes of free space. That's not a typo. That's not a typo. That's 80 megabytes. The Mac side, macOS 10.7 Lion, and Intel Core M or an Apple M1 processor. Once again, it's basically, can you watch this video? So, honourable mentions are Out of This Park Baseball 25 by Out of the Park Developments. 25 years for it. A very decent little run. So it's a very long-running baseball management simulator. It's got a player development lab this time, and licensed leagues from South Korea, England, and the Netherlands. And there's also Reveil by Pixel Split. Sorry, I struggled a bit there trying to say it. It's actually a pretty decent size, 30 gigabytes. So it's a first-person horror thriller, focusing on puzzles and exploration, exploring a rundown circus set around the 60s, and trying to find your wife and daughter across 5 different acts, and trying to find out more about the protagonist, Walter Thompson. So that's it for this time. Thank you for watching, and yes, I'll see you next month.